Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to the weekly webinar. I'm Kelly Gilo, your host. We are so happy to have you here today. In fact, we admire you, and you'll hear more about that from our speaker in just a few moments. Before we get going on that, I want to remind you all of a few housekeeping things. Looks like everybody is muted. Thank you for doing that. And you can unmute yourself when we have an opportunity to ask our speakers some questions later in our program today. It looks like on my end, someone has figured out how to turn on the closed captioning. If you don't see that on your screen and you'd like it, you should be able to see a button with CC at the bottom of your screen, and you can click on that to have the closed captioning run for you while we talk today. And I think those are all the housekeeping notes. I also want to thank you all, those of you who were able to join us a week ago for the world premiere of the Why movie. We had a wonderful turnout. 192 of you came out to see this absolutely amazing program. And from the sounds of it, people really enjoyed it. So I'm glad of that. If you have not had a chance to see Why yet, know that we have 2 screenings coming up this month. If you can get to Leavenworth to the First United Methodist Church at 6:30 on April 20th, that is a Thursday, 2 weeks from today, we will be showing Why again. And then our other opportunity this month is down in Parsons, Kansas on Thursday, April 27th, also at 6:30. Both showings are free. All of the screenings that we have will be free. If neither one of those works for you, hang in there. We are planning to take this show on the road, literally. We will be at a theater near you at some point. So keep watching the My Alliance email, and we'll let you know when those showings happen. With that, I want to introduce our speaker for today, Dr. Heather Gibbs. She is an associate professor and registered dietitian at the University of Kansas Medical Center. Dr. Gibbs has led research focused on nutrition literacy for 10 years, and her tool for measuring nutrition literacy is used internationally. She's worldwide, everybody. This is very exciting. Dr. Gibbs' current research focuses on using nutrition literacy guided communication strategies in practice to improve patients' diet quality and related health outcomes. And today, Dr. Gibbs is going to talk with us about the Admire study. So that's why I said I admire you for being here, and we all admire Dr. Gibbs for sharing her knowledge and her time today. So with that, I am going to stop sharing my screen. And Dr. Gibbs, if you want to share your screen, take it away. Go for it. Thank you.
Great. So can everybody see my screen now? Okay. And I believe I have the captions going. Does that come across okay as well? Great. Okay. Well, thank you for that introduction. Thank you so much for the opportunity to talk with you today about the Admire study. Kelly's right, we do admire you, and I'm excited to meet more of you. So although this is my first study in the field of dementia, I did want to mention that I worked in long-term care in college and have also done some volunteer work in this space. I also wanted to mention that I also have personal experience with my grandmother who lived with Alzheimer's dementia, and my father was her primary caretaker before she was placed in long-term care. So I know we all have unique experiences, but that does provide certainly motivation for being interested in this field. So that brings me to the Admire study. And in this study, we are wanting to learn more about how well people living with Alzheimer's dementia are doing nutritionally, and also how well their caretakers are doing nutritionally. So just as an introduction, nutrition plays an important role in disease prevention and brain health, but we don't know how the nutrition status of caregivers overlaps with their care recipients' nutrition status. So nutrition is fundamental to overall health, but there are challenges for both the caregiver and the care recipient to eat healthfully. So caregivers may have a number of nutrition-related tasks, such as selecting food, preparing food, serving food, And they also may be changing some of their social habits, such as eating out with friends less often, and also the shared mealtime experience may have changed. So these are shared challenges for the pair, but they may be experienced differently between the two individuals. So in the ADMIRE study, we're interested in learning more about the nutrition status of both caregivers and care recipients. So we'd like to know also about how nutrition status is linked within the pair. And we're hoping that the information that we collect will also help inform us how we could help both caregivers and care recipients in the future. So in the ADMIRE study, there are 2 opportunities to participate, and I'll talk about those over the next couple of slides. But just briefly, the first involves looking at nutrition status, and so that will involve both caregivers and care recipients. The second opportunity is for caregivers only, and in that case, we are going to be conducting focus groups. So I'll talk through both of these opportunities a little bit more. So for the first study opportunity, we will evaluate nutrition status for both caregivers and care recipients. So let me talk a little bit about who is eligible to participate. In terms of the caregiver, we are looking for caregivers who live with their care recipient. The care recipient must be diagnosed with Alzheimer's dementia or dementia. The caregiver must be responsible for a majority of the food planning, and the pair also could not have been involved in a research study that was a nutrition intervention. So specifically trying to alter nutrition status or change nutrition status in any way over the past year. So what would people do if they participate in this part of the study? The study involvement includes only one in-person visit, and that would be for the pair, so both caregiver and care recipient. And this study visit will occur at the Clinical Research Center in Fairway, Kansas. There will also be some self-administered surveys that can be completed either on site during that visit, or several of our participants have completed these online from home. So talking a little bit more about what that in-person visit is going to look like. The in-person procedures include a nutrition physical assessment, and this will be conducted by trained research registered dietitians. And so a couple of the measures that they will be doing are pictured on the slide here. So the veggie meter, some of you might be familiar if you've been in other studies, nutrition studies, or been to the research center, you might have seen the veggie meter. That's pictured in the top left corner of this slide. And what you can see there is an individual putting their index finger in the veggie meter. And that meter, using light, will detect through the skin how much vitamin A a person has in their system. And so it then tells us kind of an idea, gives us an idea of fruit and vegetable intake. So that's a veggie meter assessment. There's no blood draw involved. It's just detecting through the skin using light. And then another physical assessment that will be done is grip strength, and that's pictured in the bottom left-hand corner of the slide. This is a pretty simple measurement, but a person will grip the tool, as you can see is being done in the photo. A few times we will collect that assessment, gripping as hard as a person can, and that measures their grip strength. The dietitians will also complete a head-to-toe physical exam. You know, we wear our nutrition status on our body, in our hair, on our skin, and our nails. and they will be conducting a head-to-toe assessment to get a better idea of the caregiver's nutrition status. There are also a number of surveys that caregivers will be completing. And as I mentioned before, these can be done either on site during that visit or after the person goes home. So the surveys include information about familiarity with nutrition information, also eating habits, the degree of stress that a person is feeling, and then access to healthy food. We'll also have individuals complete a little bit lengthier diet history questionnaire, and this is to help us really understand eating habits. We will also perform a head-to-toe exam on care recipients to assess their nutrition status. And so many of the same measures I mentioned before will also be conducted in evaluating care recipients. But the care recipient will not be completing any surveys during this visit or after they go home. So that's the first opportunity. The second opportunity to participate in the Admire study concerns focus groups with caregivers only. So the purpose of these focus groups are really to learn more about the caregiver experience, especially as it relates to nutrition care and meal times, and also how caregiving is affecting self-care, which includes nutrition as well. We'd like to know if caregivers would like to have more nutrition care, and if so, in what format. So those who are eligible to participate in the focus groups are primary informal caregivers, again, who live with the care recipient and are responsible for food planning. They must be at least 18 years of age, English speaking, and without cognitive impairments. So looking a little bit more closely at what a person would do if they participate in these focus groups. First of all, prior to the focus group, we will send a brief survey to get a little bit more information. We'd like to know about the caregiver role involved in nutrition care, how caregiving affects self-care, the involvement of other healthcare professionals in nutrition care of the care recipient, and perceived need of nutrition care, and also how that would be most beneficially received. In the focus group interview, so we will use the answers from the survey to decide how to place people into a focus group. And the focus groups will consist of 5 to 8 caregivers per group. And during that time, we will ask open-ended questions to expand on the topics that were covered in the survey, to try to dig a little bit deeper and understand a little bit more about that caregiving experience and what the nutrition needs are. These focus groups can be conducted in person or virtually, depending on the participants' availability and proximity. We are compensating participants at both of these opportunities to participate. So for the first one, I talked about the nutrition assessment piece. Those who participate in this can receive a diet intake report. So I've shown you just a little snapshot of what is included on that report. So as an example is shown here, this is showing what a person's calorie intake was and where those calories come from. So how much came from carbohydrate, from protein, fat. The report is actually 12 pages in length and gives a person a really good understanding of, how many fruits and vegetables do they eat? How many grains do they eat? What about their vitamin and mineral intake? And it highlights what you're doing well as some areas for improvement. A person will also get the result of their Vegimeter analysis, and the pair will get a $50 gift card for that one-time visit. For participating in focus groups, caregivers who participate will receive a $25 gift card. So I think I've talked through a majority of what it looks like to participate in the Admire study. If you are interested, or if you know of someone who might be interested, I've provided information here so that you can reach out to us. So you can either scan the QR code, which is on the slide here. You can visit our website, or the phone number is also provided here to reach us by phone. So I think with that, I've answered most or highlighted what the study entails, and I'd be happy to field any questions that you have at this time.
Wonderful. Thank you, Dr. Gibbs. Yeah, I told you that I admired you, and you confirmed that. I forgot to say when we started that you were welcome to use the chat, everyone, for your questions. So you can, or if you'd like to unmute yourself and speak up with your question or comment for Dr. Gibbs, now is the time for you to do that. And while you're getting ready, I'll remind you that in this week's My Alliance newsletter, if you get that, there is a link to get more information about the Admire study. So if you didn't have a chance to write that down now, just go back to your My Alliance email and click on the research information, and that will get you to the right place. I also have a study flyer that I can share on my screen if anybody wants to take a look at that while we're still gathered here today. So I will put that up momentarily, and then I'll stop talking in case someone has a question. Renee has a question in the chat, and so does Mike. So Renee's question is, what question are you hoping to answer via this study? And then Mike wants to know how long the study is. So Dr. Gibbs, take it away.
Yes, so the main question that we're after is, we know that unintentional weight loss is a very common occurrence among those experiencing Alzheimer's dementia, really across the whole continuum, early diagnosis throughout the disease process. And so we'd like to get a better understanding of what the rates of that problem really are. We also would like to better understand how problematic weight or other issues might exist for caregivers, because we're concerned about the long-term health of caregivers as well. And as I mentioned, nutrition is fundamental to that. So we think that there are probably opportunities to help both caregivers and individuals with dementia, but we need a better understanding of how common are these problems, and how might they relate to one another.
Great, thank you. And did you say how long the study is, Dr. Gibbs?
Oh, yes. So the study, it's just a one-year study, but the participation is just one time. So we expect it'll take us about a year to enroll the number of people that we're hoping to get in the study, but actual participation is just the one day. It takes about a week, generally speaking, for people to come to the one visit that we do and then finish the surveys. But that depends on the individual.
Okay. And Mike is also asking, when does the study start?
It is ongoing. So we are recruiting now.
Excellent. So yeah, now is a good time, it sounds like, to scan that QR code or visit the website or give us a call at the number on your screen so you can get in. That brings to mind a question I have, maybe other people do too, and that is, once you're all done, and I'm just going to back up a little bit and say, I've just been here at the ADRC for 3 months, so I'm learning so many wonderful things. So I'm going to take off my staff hat and put on my general public hat. And my question is, once you're finished with the study, once you've gotten all the data, then what happens?
So we're performing the study so we can understand exactly what to do next. There are existing interventions for both caregivers as well as for caregivers assisting persons with dementia around nutrition. We're trying to figure out how we can, where, I guess, from this study, we will learn where we need to put our efforts around nutrition intervention. Does it need to be exclusively focusing on caregivers and helping to support their nutrition needs? Does it need to be on helping caregivers support persons with dementia nutrition needs, or is it a combination of the two?
Excellent. Okay. Looks like Valerie wants to know, how many times will the caregiver be interviewed for focus groups? Can caregivers participate in one group only and not the other?
That's a great question. So caregivers can participate in both opportunities. If they qualify for the first assessment study, they also qualify for the focus groups. So a person could participate in both, or if for whatever reason a caregiver doesn't want to participate in the first one, if they don't qualify for the first one, they could still participate in focus groups. And focus groups will happen only once. We do have a brief survey, as I mentioned, that we would send out to people early on, just to get a little bit of information to understand what focus group makeup might be best for the individual. And then also so that we have a little bit of information to ask those really good open-ended questions to learn a little bit more.
Very good. Okay. Any other questions or thoughts? I do have another one if no one else does. Oh, there's one in the chat. I will cede my position to the person in the chat. Oh, Mike says thank you. That is more important. Yes,
Sure.
Thank you from Mike. My question is, I would love to hear more about your tool, Dr. Gibbs, your international nutrition literacy tool. I have a great interest in health literacy, and nutritional literacy, I think, aligns with that. So I'd love to hear what that is about.
Great, absolutely. Thanks for asking. So nutrition literacy is the concept of health literacy applied into the world of nutrition. So the idea of nutrition literacy is, what does a person use? What kind of nutrition information does a person use to inform their food choices? So we're talking about really 6 different things is what we measure in the tool. Use of nutrition text to make nutrition decisions, using food labels to make nutrition decisions, whether a person or how a person groups food by like categories. So if you're familiar with My Plate or another food grouping tool, it measures how well a person can assign a food to one of those food group categories. We also are looking at food portioning and, recognizing the recommended food portion sizes. And then also how a person makes decisions between similar foods at a grocery store. So we currently have that tool. We developed it here at the University of Kansas, and so that was an English version. We also have it translated into Spanish, and in a US context, it's been translated into Italian, Portuguese, and also it's being used in England in that context as well. So
super cool. Super cool. All right. Any other questions or comments or things you'd like to say to Dr. Gibbs? Feel free to, again, use the chat or speak up. We've got a few minutes left. I'll tell you, Dr. Gibbs, you win the prize for respecting the time amount in the best way. Not that I don't ever mind if we go over. As a person who enjoys talking, I'm probably the most guilty of that, actually. So thank you for being in our time limits, although, there's always something interesting to talk about.
Absolutely. I hope I haven't left off any important information for people to understand, but I mostly wanted to hit the highlights and then field, whatever questions are out there. So.
Yeah, I think you did exactly that. I think
Okay.
people are thinking, sign me up. I know everything I need to know. Just quit talking so I can give them a call.
Yeah, that would be great. We'd love to see you. and learn from you, and just very excited about this work.
Very good. All right, then I am going to, I hope you all have what you need from this flyer. If not, feel free to send an email to myalliance@kumc.edu, and I'll be happy to share it, or call 913-588-0555, option 1, and that will get you to the folks who can talk to you more about the study. I can tell you that next week's webinar topic is all about sleep. So once you get your nutrition together, we want to shift you to getting some good sleep. The name of the study, Mike, is Admire. So it's hopefully pretty easy to remember, but I think if you call and you say, I want to hear about that study for the caregivers and the food and the care partners, they'll know what you mean. But Admire is the name of the study. And next week's topic is all about sleep. And Rosie Pasqualini, who is some of you may know from our LEAP program, is going to give us some really great information about sleep hygiene, how much sleep should you get, how much do you get, all kinds of things. And so I know I'm really excited about that. For those of you who get the My Alliance email, you'll know that every week we have a brain booster section. We have a, I think, fun trivia question or a math problem or something interesting that either I find online or I just make up. This week, our questions will be about sleep. I wanted to go with the theme here. And there's one question that you will get the answer to only if you come to the webinar next week. So I'm going to leave you in suspense. That's a little incentive for you to join us. So watch your email for that message on Monday. We'll have the links for this next Thursday's program. We've got a link to a different study that we are wanting you to participate that is sleep related, and other details. You'll have to read it to find out. So with that being said, I see one new comment in the chat. Oh, that was Mike's question about what the name of the study is. Good. Okay. With that, then I really will quit running my mouth. And thank you again, Dr. Gibbs, for being here, and thank all of you for being here. Like me, I think you probably all found it quite useful. So we appreciate that. Thank you very much, Dr. Gibbs. Okay. And this recording will be available in about 24 hours if you'd like to watch it again, or if you know someone who couldn't be here, you can share the link. Okay.
Great. Thanks so much for having me.
Thanks a lot. Have a good afternoon, everyone. Bye-bye.